I believe we are recording now. So once again, I'll just introduce myself and then I'll have you reintroduce yourself as well. My name is Kaylin Weber. I'm the Chief Deputy Coroner here and also the RFP contact for San Mateo County Coroner's Office. And we have one bidder joining us, or potential vendor, proposer joining us. So can you please introduce yourself?
Sure thing. My name is Jenna Locke. I am an account manager with NMS Labs.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today for the vendor pre-proposal meeting. I'll just kind of show you, I'll share my screen and show the agenda. And then we'll just go and run briefly through the agenda and the bid itself, or the request for proposals itself. And then if you have any questions, then I will take those and do my best to answer them right now. And if there's something I have to return back further, I will. So let me see if I can share my screen here. I don't often actually lead the meeting, so I have to get re-familiar with all the settings here.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay. You just let me know. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can. I can see the RFP.
Great.
Or the agenda for the RFP, I should say.
Great, great. So we just introduced ourselves and so we'll move on to number 2 on the agenda, which is just the OpenGov supplier portal. Jen, are you familiar with the portal itself?
We do have a separate team that is kind of responsible for that aspect, so they are more familiar than I am.
Okay, great. Well, for anybody who comes on later to review this recording, the request for proposals, the best way to kind of be driven to this page is to go to the San Mateo County smcgov.org/CEO County Executive's Office website under request for proposals. It's part of their procurement. They sit under the CEO's office. And there is the table here to be able to find active projects within the county, not just our project. And so you would follow that to subscribe to a project, or to follow, essentially see if there's projects you can subscribe under the click here button. And if there's if you need help registering for OpenGov for where the solicitations actually happen, there's a help file here. And then the county's procurement office would be the best resource for any questions pertaining to just how OpenGov works. So once you do get registered as a vendor, you would select the Toxicology Services proposal here. It's under the coroner's office. Our project ID or proposal number is COR 2025-02. And going on here, there's we'll just go through kind of the scope of the project itself, what's listed here. Let me pull up apologize for all the windows. That's actually the request for proposal. Let me see what it's going back to here. Okay. So if there are any questions for your people there, Jenna, go ahead and just have them reach out to the San Mateo County Procurement Office and they can help walk through that. So we'll just walk through the timeline, the submission, the pricing proposal, the evaluation, and then the sample contract, which is our only appendix at this time. And then I can discuss the scope of work and then we'll go into questions. So go back to our portal. San Mateo, should probably go to here. Apologize, I don't know exactly okay, project documents, there we go. So the scope of work, we'll talk about in a minute. Actually, I just talked about it now. We'll go out of order here. So San Mateo County, we are a county of about 770,000 residents here. For the coroner's office, we handle approximately 2,400 cases a year, cases that are reported to our office. Of those, we bring in about 600 on average. cases that we bring into our office under our jurisdiction and do an examination of some sort. And of those cases, there are probably about 400 that there's actually an autopsy that's performed. And of those cases, I'd say probably about, I should have better numbers for you, but we're on average doing toxicology on about 30 cases a month. So that equals out to about 360 cases or so a year for toxicology. So we're not a high production, that's a weird word to say, but production office here. We don't bring in a ton of cases, but that hopefully gives you a kind of an idea of what kind of work we're looking for, caseload we're looking for coverage on. So we are an accredited office under the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners, IACME, and for those accreditation requirements, we do have to have a lab who is also accredited, as it's clearly written in our scope here. So we need to make sure within this process we are seeing and confirming those that you are a lab that is accredited and meets those basic standards for our office. We're looking for somebody who can do both blood, urine, alcohol analysis, but also we occasionally have requests for gastric samples, vitreous samples, of course, which are more common, and occasional tissue samples, liver samples, or other deep tissue samples. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty because all this stuff can really be read through by the contract people, just to look at what our minimum requirements are. But we're looking for testing for chemical and biological agents, so drugs, alcohol, other types of contaminants. Carbon monoxide testing is important. One of the tests that we have that are kind of off the normal standard of tests offered, but we're looking for an office who, if they're not inclusive of all of these things, can contract with another agency and we can work through with those. But as I said, we don't have a high number of cases per month, and the unique requests that are occasional are also not very common because we just don't get those here in San Mateo County so much. So we're just kind of looking to get an idea of basic samples that fit this kind of schedule here. And then in addition to that, this would also be looking for the proposing vendor to provide essentially a list of all the tests that they would have access to, being able to provide to our office, and associated fees with those, so that we understood what that was. We do ask for the vendor to provide either courier service if it's a local company, or other prepaid type of Federal Express or other services that are prepaid, and packaging and supplies provided for all that testing. As I mentioned, we are an accredited office, and the accreditation requirement, it's a little bit confusing the way it's written in here, and I put it in here both because the IACME requires certain standards, and then has essentially suggested standards that we're maintaining, and we have to meet in certain level of those. So our required standard is 90% of toxicology examinations are completed within 90 calendar days of submission, and that's the shall, and our should, which is the hopeful standard that we could meet, would be 90% of all cases actually meet the 60 calendar day submission requirement. So what we're aiming for, like bottom standard, is 90 days, hoping 60 days, and our experience has been we've actually had turnaround times of much quicker than that with previous companies that have provided the service in our past. So what we're hoping for, if it's a simple toxicology case, 10 to 14 days. So we are very interested in what your turnaround times are for general turnaround times. And my expectation would be that you're fitting within that 60-day time period for turnaround. The kind of gets into the caseload. If there's anything that I really missed there. The qualifications, there should be essentially an account manager that we're working with exclusively for our office. So hope to not be just bounced around to general customer service, and that the experience of the professionals providing the toxicology analyses are also board certified. So American Board of Forensic Toxicology. Reports, we ask that each report provides this subject name, agency case number, specimen description, chain of custody information, the requested testing, requesting agency contact information, contract information, test results, certification of the results statement, analyst signature, and the date of the test and or date of report. So we ask that vendors have a client portal and a notification system that's set in place so that when a new report is uploaded into that portal, we are notified of that. So whether that be a email or some other type of notification, so that we know that we can go into that portal and grab that report itself. Additionally, we also have our software through Verticue at CME, which we ask that the vendors are able to integrate within that system, so that test results can be delivered immediately and directly to our case management system. And so we have the access to both the report itself, that's a download for us on PDF, and then also it is just directly imported into our system. And we also ask for the contractor to be submitting quarterly reports on the turnaround time and by total number of tests ordered. Submission requirements, the proposals should be submitted through OpenGov by 4 p.m. on Friday, October 31st. Any later submissions will not be accepted and not considered. So if the submission is not complete, that will not be considered for the proposal review process. There are a number of local business, local nonprofit considerations that's under this minimum qualifications. There's local preference and the minimum qualifications. So you'll know if you meet those by just filling out this within the OpenGov system. All of our bidders must be, or before business can start, you must be registered with sam.gov. And I think the rest of this is pretty straightforward. This is the county requirements, and we have no adjustments to this. This is how kind of you understand qualification here. I'm going to just kind of breeze through that. Again, this is our pricing proposal in the original scope of work. These are the same tests that are listed out. This is not just exhaustive of what we're looking for, but this is essentially the main types of tests that we are looking to be provided. Basic panel, expanded panels, things that are initially qualitative and then quantitated for positive tests. Big thing in California is the ethanol Title 17 blood tests here for any of our vehicle-related deaths. So those are big here and a requirement of our government code. That's pretty much here. And I think one of the questions that I'll be answering on the question and answer within OpenGov, I got a number submitted already to me that I'll go through and answer, and then it'll be available to everybody. But if a vendor has tests that are not, essentially we want to know what tests you basically provide and the drugs that are included in those tests. And so if you have something like a basic or like a initial screening, what that would include, and then an expanded test or quantification kind of variation. So this is not going to be, I'm trying to think of the right word, but I don't want a vendor to feel shoehorned by what these are saying, because you're going to probably have a variation based on what your own testing names and specific tests are. So providing similar tests in whatever format that fits that is appropriate, so that we know what your offerings are and what those costs are for each of the tests. So hopefully that clarifies that. I'll try to do a better job answering that on the actual written questions later. So our evaluation and selection criteria, 50% or 50 points for this. I think there's a total of 110 points. Firm qualifications and accreditation. So absolutely we need a firm to be accredited. If you're not accredited, you're not going to be able to score well here at all. Second, 15 points based on the scope of testing offered. So like I said, kind of the table of what we're asking for the pricing, but also kind of an extensive list of what's offered and what that pricing would be helpful to know also. Price including supplies and transport. We would be looking at that if the pricing you're giving us is exclusive or inclusive of all those things, or if there's additional fees associated with shipping or supplies being provided or whatnot, because I know not every company is going to make those inclusive costs. Client portal and integration. So there's 5 points based on that. Integration into our data management system through Vertiq. Our specimen transport, what that methodology is, 5 points, and then turnaround time, 15 points. So there are preferential 10 points preferential on what is it? I think local business or small business nonprofit. So there are preferential points for that. The instructions to proposers, obviously we're doing the pre-proposal conference now. This will be, again, available to any proposer at a later date. I will put it up on our proposal OpenGov site there. Communications, here I just should have read through this before, but communications should be really, if there are questions about the process itself, should be with the procurement company. Questions on this should be submitted through OpenGov if there are specific questions, and those will be answered and posted for all to see. So there just shouldn't be any one-on-one communications that would give preference to any proposer on their response to the RFP. The award procedure, there will be, once a proposer is selected, there will be contract negotiations before the contract is executed. Our hope is to have an executed contract approved by our Board of Supervisors at the end of this year, and the award to be made at the beginning of 2026. A notice of intent to award to that proposer will go out, and I'll kind of let the proposers read through this. But what we're looking for as far as contract term, I know that's a question. We're looking for a probably a 3-year sole awarded contract with the potential that we'd be extending it another 2 years beyond that. So a total of 5 years. As far as pricing goes, I know that's a question that comes up often with contracts. Is there room for increases or changes in contract pricing? And that is something that would need to be proposed within your response, your RFP for this particular contract, what you would expect these prices to change if you wanted to build something in changing every year for the increases that you expect to see. That does need to be part of the proposal. We will not accept any changes to contract pricing outside of the contract if that's not something that's incorporated, whether that be part of the proposal and then negotiated how that actually works once the award is, the vendor is awarded the contract. There are various terms and conditions for the receipt of the proposal, objections. If there are any grounds for objection, that's 10 calendar days after the RFP is issued. And there's a withdrawal process or revision process of the proposal. So please, if you're are responding, make sure you pay attention to these terms and conditions. And then there's a protest procedure as well for the non-responsiveness contract award and delivery of the protest, that just how to go about that. And that's all goes through the procurement department. So finally, the standard contract template. This is the county standard contract template. It is kind of basic. Oh, sorry, let me open it right now. Basic standard language for San Mateo County. The part of that template, let me see if I can pull it up actually. I don't have it downloaded, but there are that sample contract. It's non-specific. There's no details about this particular RFP or the scope of work in there. Essentially, Exhibit A is included, will include the scope of work there, and Exhibit B would be the pricing for the testing. So I think there was a question that I'll answer in the Q&A, written Q&A, but it was a question about what those particular exhibits would be. But Exhibit A is the scope of work, Exhibit B is the pricing schedule. So I think that is kind of the quick down and dirty run through of our project and the process. Let me just make sure I on my computer. Okay. Process there. Yeah. So if there's any other, I guess we'll just open up, yeah, to any questions that you might have.
Or may I ask kind of a follow-up question based on something that you had just said about the term of the contract and pricing? Yeah. So I know you had mentioned that you were hoping to do an initial 3-year term, and then there was a possible additional 2 years for a total of 5 years.
Yes.
So when you had stated that you wanted all pricing to be included within the RFP response, does that include that additional 2 years? So let's say it's going to be the same for the first 3 years, but maybe for that additional 2 years, it might change at that time. Would you want that all up front, or how would you want that, if at all?
Yeah, I would want to know that all up front. I know that's a long period. A lot of things can change with pricing of things, and So it's, I know that's a hard ask. If it's not specific numbers, I would say maybe build in what you expect kind of an increase might be. There's a, gosh, I know there's a term for the cost, general cost increase cost index that you would expect for.
Consumer price index or something along those lines.
Thank you. I was just totally blanking on that. But yeah, so if that was something that there was something written in there about the pricing would be, it would not increase by this much, or it would be reviewed at the end of the 3 years to determine what pricing might, what that CPI would include. So.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we just essentially, we don't want to be surprised when a vendor says, oh, we actually want to change your pricing. But if it's written in there saying, this is how we evaluate pricing for, year 4, it would be based on this. It would be no more than, whatever percentage, 4 or 5% or something like that, whatever that percentage is that you would expect. So by no means do we expect a vendor to stick to the same price from year 1 to year 5. We know that there's cost increases. And so we expect that, but it is something where we wouldn't want to get to year 3 and then receive a letter from you guys saying, oh, by the way, we are also increasing this if it's not already something that we expect in the contract to happen.
Absolutely. And would that be for that 2 additional years? Are you anticipating going into a full 2-year contract, or would it be 2 1-year extensions?
That's a great question. I'm not, I wish my fiscal person who usually handles our contract extensions and things, I wish she was here. She's not able to be here today, but I think it traditionally in past contracts it's been extended by a year each year, so 1 year. But things have changed a little bit recently in our procurement process in the county, so it might actually be the 1-2 year. So it's a total of 5 years. So I'm sorry I can't answer that more clearly right now, but I can see about asking that question to understand that better and putting that maybe a part of the Q&As.
Be great. Thank you. And then the only other question I had for now that wasn't originally submitted, just based on what we had discussed, is do you have an anticipated contract start date of when this will all go into effect?
Yes. So we would expect the start date to likely be January 1st. And I hesitate saying that 100% just because it is, my contract person would be better at that. If it wasn't January 1st, it'd probably be March 1st. And it just depends on, I think, our existing contract and the approval process for the bid of the contract itself. So, but it would not be beyond March. So it'd be either the beginning of the year, the beginning of that. I guess not quite the second quarter, but be going into this end of the first quarter there. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay,
and that's it for me for now.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's all I have here, so we can just return back half hour to both of our schedules. And I'm going to go ahead and thank you so much for participating today. And if there are any other questions, they can be submitted through OpenGov on the Q&A section.